Well, we have a finished grain elevator now. Is my hair okay? I'm very fussy about my hair, as you can see. Anyway, okay. I was going to put a few shapes of clouds up here and give it a little more definition in the background, and I thought, nope, it doesn't need more busyness up here. We have a whole lot here. We don't need more in the sky. So we just kept everything soft and gradually went from lower values to higher values. In the sky, we used ultramarine blue, raw umber, and just a hint of white. At the bottom, working our way up, still using ultramarine blue, raw umber, starting to touch a little bit of cobalt blue now, just a bit. We came up to here. We stopped using ultramarine blue. We're strictly using cobalt blue and raw umber now, and white, as we feathered away off the top of the canvas. Started out with a lot of horizontal brush strokes and began to break them up a little bit as we work our way up the painting. Some more vertical, a bit of a cup here, dipping in over this line. What else has changed? Oh, I had one of these little prongs. I removed one of those. Kind of looks like a big taser now. It's got two prongs. Anyway, that's done. What are they? They're lightning conductors. That's, on the prairies, the grain elevator is the tallest structure around often, so they usually put those on there. Of course, on an old thing like this, I don't know if they'd still be there, but I put them in anyway, just for the heck of it. Okay, the old window, bit of a tin flashing there for repairs, maybe where the logo used to be, there's a scar there, and they had to do some repairs. A few old signs. The elevator itself, I think I've gone through it, but we'll go through it again anyway. I used a little bit of cobalt blue in my bluer areas, maybe hints of ultramarine as well, and I used cadmium red, not alizarin crimson. That's usually my go-to, is alizarin crimson on strictly nature landscapes. If I start to introduce buildings, then sometimes I'll throw in a little bit of cad red. Actually, I've thrown in cad red medium in just landscapes as well, nature landscapes. But for here, it was cad red. Cad red is the mainstay. So we did that with a little bit of cobalt blue, basically, and then I started to warm up the reds here. We got rid of the blue completely. We went to yellow ochre and cad red medium. And then as we move our way to the more intense areas here and here, we went to cad red medium and cad orange. Sort of like so. And then we get to the brighter areas. We went to cad red medium, cad orange light. And we're getting into the lighter areas now. And then for our final lightest strokes, we went to cad red medium and cad yellow pale. And white, a bit of white here and there. To intensify our most intense sort of red areas. Our roof bits here. Our slices of roof. Well, that hatch is just burnt sienna and white. Raw umber on this window frame. These are yellow ochre, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, white, and a little raw umber in places. So that goes for the two roof bits, and this as well. This fascia, this bit back here, down in here is mostly raw umber, and then we've gone to raw umber, this door frame, raw umber, mostly, raw umber, ultramarine blue, a little bit of yellow ochre and white on the lighter areas to warm it up a bit. The stick, what have you. These two signs on the top, the higher ones, that's cad yellow pale and burnt sienna, and a bit of white. This one is actually cad yellow pale and a little bit of ultramarine blue. for that green. Slightly more intense than these greens, slightly more intense than this, but you barely see it. It's okay. I don't want it to be too stand outish. Inside this room, you can see the whole thing's a pretty tidy painting, tidier than I was planning. But as you can see, I've even swept the floor in this little workshop area. That used to be the drive-through, but now they've made it into a workshop. Raw umber, ultramarine blue, white. And these 4 squares here, I had them very much in these colors, too much like those grays, so I warmed them up. Thought I'd give them a little bit of variety and used ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson, just in there. Our driveway is all raw umber, alizarin crimson, yellow ochre, and white. Varieties of that. I was thinking about putting some grass in the center here, but no, I decided it didn't need it. I don't want that to have too much more interest just running off the painting. And this is a very broad area, you know, covers the whole base really. So I didn't want to intersect that too much. I've already done it a little bit with the darker versus the light tones, but I think that's good. Distant field, yellow ochre, raw umber, hints of white. This, ultramarine blue, yellow ochre, burnt sienna, and white. This, ultramarine blue, yellow ochre, and white. This, yellow ochre, ultramarine blue, white. Hints of burnt sienna. The darker areas on the driveway are really raw umber and a little bit of alizarin crimson. Very tiny hints of yellow ochre here and there, and just hints of white. The lighter areas are really raw umber, more yellow ochre, no alizarin crimson, and white. Down here, we're kind of back into our cobalt blue and a bit of raw umber for the base of the elevator. I think that's about it for colors. I was very tempted to put, you know, one pole here where maybe there used to be a power pole there at some point, you know, or maybe years ago there was a train track running along here and you would have had some power poles running along the side of it, or telephone pole or whatever. I was tempted to put maybe something there too, but no, you know, in a sense, or even some sheds in the background. But I'm really on the fence about that. And what I came down to was I wanted to keep the whole painting very simple. I like the feeling of solitude that's given by not accompanying the main feature with little stuff in the distance. I don't want to draw the eye too much into the distance. So there's a very nice clean line back here. You know, delineates our ground from our sky, and I think works just the way it is. I don't want to clutter it with stuff that's not necessary and stuff that is not beneficial. So I've left it as is. Done deal. Very happy with it. I'm going to throw another 16 by 20 inch. I was planning on actually giving this more of a break and going drawing maybe over the weekend, but our weather's been so wet that I didn't even want to go out. It's just cold and wet and really nasty. Winter has arrived here in the Fraser Valley, and that means that often means just winter storm after winter storm. Not snow, just a lot of rain, a lot of wind. Okay, I'll do some zoomies on this thing. Maybe a few close-ups. Clickety-clack. All right. Some of my expert camera work here. The top is a little bit, I can't see a whole lot because we're kind of getting close to our light that's coming from the ceiling. It's mounted on the ceiling. That's okay. It suits me for painting. It's just not as good for the photography end of things. Or the filming end of things. Our little window there too. That's actually ultramarine blue and a bit of burnt sienna. In the shadows under the eaves, under the eaves I've used a little cobalt blue and cad red medium as well, and a bit of white. Okay, so we've got our strokes in the appropriate directions here and there. You know, a little shot of burnt sienna and ultramarine blue right there, mostly burnt sienna, as you can see. That's what happens when you go to straight burnt sienna. Much stronger, higher chroma. You can see a lot of the tooth of the canvas showing through. I really enjoy that effect on a painting. Most of the time. Okay, and then this is shadow, but I didn't want it to be too dark. I didn't even go too cold. You can see there are a couple of strokes of yellow ochre even showing through. That was, again, cobalt blue, cad red medium, and white, but it was very cold, so I did in places put a little bit of yellow ochre to that mix, add a little yellow ochre to that mix and warmed it up a little bit. So it doesn't stand in such dark contrast from the bright red. You know, one little shot of cadmium orange light. Just a dot. It's enough. Keeps it interesting. And you can see these are quite a bit bluer now. Actually, they're fairly purple, but against that red, they don't look that purple. They look more blue. Previously looked a little more like they were in those colors, and then of course you have the feeling that those are windows looking through the back, and they're actually not. But anyway, that stuff doesn't matter. It's about the painting. All this stuff only has to be possible. It doesn't always have to be that plausible. And our driveway, the old driveway, wasting away. Quite stylized, almost looks like sand in a way, but I'm okay with it. I like the stylized look. The whole painting is pretty stylized. The only part of the painting that really sort of lends itself to a little more realism is the sky. And because it's quite muted, I did not want to have a stylized sky because I felt that the whole painting might become a little bit noisy, visually noisy, a little bit busy, you know. So that's kind of why I stuck with what I have. Anyway, hope you like it, and I'm going to put a smaller canvas on there now. All right, see you soon.